Emotion and its physiological effects. First off, what are the immediate effects of emotion? Facial expressions. And what are they? An outward reflection of an inner emotion. But why do we use facial expressions? Why do we want other people to know how we're thinking? Well, it's not just humans, it's all kinds of other animals that use facial expressions as well. For example, monkeys have a facial expression that kind of resembles a human smile, but it actually signifies submission to another monkey. So why do animals and humans use facial expressions? Ultimately, it's a form of communication and a way to become more in tune with the other social members of your group. But how are we able to do this? Are we just born knowing how to read facial expressions, or do we have to learn how to do that? No one knows. Essentially, this question comes down to nature versus nurture. But there's all kinds of research out there trying to figure out whether facial expression recognition is a skill that's based in evolution or is simply learned throughout your life. Here are a few different research methods that are being used right now to figure it out. First, babies. As early as 6 months old, babies are able to recognize facial expressions. Even newborns are able to differentiate between a fearful face and a happy face. Evidence supporting the theory that babies are born with these facial recognition skills instead of learning them as they grow up supports the theory that these facial expression techniques are an evolutionary trait. Another theory being investigated is the universal emotion recognition theory. Essentially, this theory states that certain facial expressions across the world hold similar meanings, like a smile meaning happiness or a wrinkled nose meaning disgust. If this theory holds true, it's likely that facial expressions are grounded in human evolution and are not simply a learned trait. And this leads us to research concerning microexpressions. Microexpressions are a product of two neural mechanisms functioning at the same time. When this happens, the involuntary mechanism is said to leak out for a split second before the desired expression is able to be shown. A microexpression usually signifies some sort of deception or lie. So, are we as good at recognizing microexpressions as normal facial expressions? Some people, like police officers or FBI agents, are now trained in being able to recognize them. Some studies have also looked at victims of sexual abuse and found that these people have a higher success rate at recognizing deceitful microexpressions. Studies that focus on the recognition abilities of babies, the validity of universal emotion recognition theory, and the ability to be trained to recognize microexpressions all support the theory that there is an underlying evolutionary significance to the use of facial expressions. Now that we've discussed the immediate effects of emotion, we're going to talk about the long-term effects.
Did you know that your emotions can regulate your immune response? It has been shown that happier people are healthier and have a more robust immune system. To prove this, we must measure the function of the immune system. So how is immune function measured? Immune function is measured several ways. Through cytokine levels, which are the regulatory chemicals of the immune system, through immune cell activity, and the number of antibodies present in the blood serum. So what effect do emotions have on the immune system? A 2010 study showed that oxytocin helped to increase immune function and upregulate the production of lymphocytes. Oxytocin is related to emotions because it is thought of as the love molecule. Another study in 2010 showed elevated levels of THF-alpha, an important cytokine in association with higher oxytocin levels. This rise in THF-alpha and oxytocin was associated with couples who reported happier or more positive marital relations. The flip side of this study was couples who were in negatively associated relationships. In other words, they were unhappy. These couples had lower levels of THF-alpha and oxytocin. Expectedly, the happy couples also had better wound healing in association with their higher oxytocin and THF-alpha levels. Several studies in the 90s and 2000s showed a positive correlation between positively thinking people and NK cell levels. NK cells can be thought of as our cancer and viral-fighting ninja cells, as seen here with an NK cell killing a much larger infected cell. In these studies, those people who were seen as negatively emotional had lower levels of NK cells, and those who had positive emotions had higher levels of NK cells. The levels of NK cells were measured through their activity levels and their ratios in the blood serum. Emotional interaction with the immune system can also be seen through antibody levels in the blood as shown in a 2003 study. In this study, they took students and placed them into two categories, one associated with negative emotion expression and one associated with positive emotion expression. They then gave the students a flu shot and measured the baseline antibody levels. Then they tested their antibody levels at 6 months. They found that the students who were more positive had higher levels of antibodies than the students associated with negative emotions. In conclusion, I hope that you can see there is a positive link between emotions and your immune system. So to be healthy, be happy.